Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of SuperCoach mates. Well, we're at the halfway stage. Round 11 is done and dusted, which now means we are at the bye. Tonight it's just Jonas. I think Thomas is busy doing university exam prep, so obviously good luck to him. So tonight's going to be really quick, just a quick update for you guys. A little bit different to how we normally go. So I'll start off. Well, since you're the only one here, Jonas, how'd you go this week? And maybe a good player and a bad player very quickly.
Yep. I scored 24.85 and moved into
Not bad.
moved into 13K mark, which wasn't bad considering I had Bailey Smith on the pine.
That doesn't help.
Yeah, didn't. But as for a good and a bad player, I'd have to give that to Jack Sinclair / Sean Darcy because they both pretty much scored the same score. And as for a bad player of the week, I avoided Heaney and Petrarca, but I had to field. There wasn't anyone that was really ordinary, but I'd say probably I'll throw Cooper Stevens under the bus because he only scored 46. But
it's a bit harsh in his third game.
Yeah, I can't really.
No,
throw too much shade to him. How about yourself?
Well, I'm one of the lucky people who got Tom Stewart. So obviously his 174 was helpful. In fact, my top three backmen are probably my three. In fact, I think they are the three highest. Oh no, actually, I forgot about Lockie Neal. But yeah, Tom Stewart, 174. I brought Jack Sinclair in this week, and he got 140. So I can't complain with that. Unfortunately, the other person I brought in this week was Isaac Heaney. Which he only scored 53, which I was a little bit disappointed at, and he got outscored by 29 points on Nick Martin, which is the guy who I traded out for him. So that's definitely not a good start for Isaac. So anyway, let's talk about some trade targets real quick. So one guy I want to bring up with you, I spoke to Thomas about this last week. I want to bring up Tom Mitchell. Now, I know you're dead against this idea, but I spoke last week about this, and he didn't score under 110 in the second half of last year. He basically did the same in 2020. He's 480,000. His break even is 70. He goes gangbusted against Collingwood. I think one match he had 54 disposals, something. Can this guy be a trade-in, or are you just still dead against this idea?
We've got to remember, we're in a different era at the moment. Tom Mitchell isn't the player he once was. Hawthorn aren't the team they once were. And if you're looking for a cheap midfielder, I think you can do better with Zach Merritt. I think you can do better with Petrarca when he comes down after that 50 score he had. And I think also you can get Brayshaw for probably 40 or 50,000 more, which I'd much rather because he's playing in a better team. They're going to get wins on the board. So I think Tom Mitchell isn't the worst option, but I'd be looking elsewhere in terms of M8 because I think there are people who will outscore him by a considerable amount for only like 40,000 more.
Yeah, I'm on the same camp. I was going to get him, but then he only scored 85, which was actually Hawthorn's third highest scorer still. But yeah, I was hoping he'd be a bit higher. Someone else I want to touch to you about, I don't know what your defensive situation's like, but Dan Houston, someone who I think Thomas has had in the past and is letting down here quite badly. But he's got the bye, so he probably wouldn't do it this week. But his last 2 weeks, 139, 120. He's got a break even of 56 when he comes back. Obviously, Port Adelaide are on the charge. If you're looking for a final defender spot, could this be a way to go?
Not the worst option, but he's a bit of a fill-in player in terms that he'll play like a multiple amount of roles, which means his scoring could be a bit volatile at times, and he's already gone under 100 6 times this year. So I think you can do better. I'm not sure he's top 6 from here on out.
He's 5th at the minute.
From here on out.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got Sicily, you got Stewart, you got Sinclair, and I'd say that Crispin, Dawson, Hewitt.
Hewitt.
You can target. I'd rather target Hewitt or Doherty or Sinclair over, say, over Houston, because at least they're scoring and their jobs, then their role is a bit more secure.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough too. And I'll just quickly touch on the forward line real quick. So obviously, with it being round 12, we've had some DPP updates. So I don't want to steal your thunder too much, Jones, because I think you're probably going to talk about this. But just quickly, have you seen any of the changes? And are there any players that have now become relevant given their position change?
Yeah, there's been a few that got, I think, somewhere in the 20s, but the main ones are Bontempelli and Bailey Smith.
Yeah.
I think you target this week if you can afford to cop them over the round 13 bye. If you're not fielding 18 in round 13, you're going to have to probably wait on them. But if not, I don't see why you can't target them. If you're looking at one of those two or even a Tim English, I'd prioritize Tim English purely because he's got the lowest break even and his average is pretty unreal at the moment.
So
coming up
128.
Coming up against Reece Stanley, you'd expect another pretty solid score. So I'd be looking at Tim English first and foremost, and only trading one of those three in if you have enough playing in round 13. If not, I'd be waiting. But they're all great options, and I think all of them are by far and away top 6 forwards.
I mean, could we be in a position here, just touching on, so obviously now with Bontempelli and Bailey Smith getting forward eligibility, could we potentially have 6 Bulldogs premiums as our 6 forwards, given the fact we've got English who's ruck forward, Dunkley's obviously still going great, Libba got, I think, DPP in the last change, and I think Adam Treloar did as well. So right now they are 6 out of the top 9 scorers in the forward line. That's on average. Obviously because English has only played 6 games. Could we be in a situation where we end up with all 6 of them being the top 6 forwards at the end of the year?
Quite possibly, but I think with Liberatore and Treloar, they're probably not worth sidewaysing to if you've got a Brody or Cornelio. I mean, you could if you want just the novelty of having 6 players in one line who all play for the same team, but I wouldn't be trading a Cornelio or a Brody unless their scoring dramatically falls away to one of those other 2 Bulldogs mids.
Yeah, I think so as well. Some trade targets. Can't believe Will Brody's still going great. 552. I mean, he's almost at the stage now where you can probably get him in and keep him for the rest of the year, given how well he's going.
Yeah.
He's flying. My poor colleague Thomas is just sitting back watching him get 115 every week. Although that's me with George Hewitt. Bailey Smith break even to 65. I think he's one I'd probably be, if you're not going down the Tim English path, I think he's one I'd be looking to get in. Otherwise, there's not really a lot of people I think this week that are worth getting in. I don't think. Just looking at the top, I think there's still something about that Tom Mitchell trade that just likes me to doing it. He's got proven scoring, but then again, he has scored I think he scored a 41 week. So I don't think there's really anyone I'd be targeting this week. I think normally round 12 or normally the first week of the buys, I don't tend to like trading. Because you're just going to be trading in blokes who are going to miss in the next 2 weeks anyway. So anyway, did you want to touch on some players just before we sort of maybe look at some vice captaincies and wrap up?
Yeah, so I think if you're not trading in any premiums this week, There are a couple rookies you could look at. I think there could be some that appear in the mid-season draft on Wednesday who'd be bargain basement price. That could be quite interesting. I think you just have to wait for the team sheets, though. Make sure they're named before you trade them in. Otherwise, Machito Owen scored quite well. Unfortunately, he's got the bye this week, but if you're looking for a downgrade option, he should play next week for St Kilda. So
Yeah, and
I
if
think he scored almost 90. So
yeah, it was 89, and obviously he scored 2 in the first week. So if you can put another 80 in there,
yeah,
that might end up being a really good trading. Is if you go down that path, which I think I might go down that path.
yes. And if you're looking for a defender, another one who's unfortunately got the bye this week, but Jacob Ware from GWS scored all right, but I'd be a bit hesitant bringing him in because there are a few GWS players to come back. I think Haynes was out of the team. Whitfield and Taranto weren't playing, and a few others like Kennedy. So he's one I probably wouldn't jump on this week. I'd want to make sure he plays next week before bringing him in. And if you're looking for a ruckman, there isn't much option if you're downgrading, say, a Hayes or a Bruce, which I would be advocating for to free up some cash. I think your best options are anyone with DPP or maybe the West Coast ruckman Stranada.
Yeah, just touching on that. So a lot of people I've seen have actually downgraded to Luke Stranadico, who's only 102k. He's injured, so I don't know what his prognosis is, around 12 to 14. Can we start trading players who are essentially dead weight and using them as loophole players if you've got sort of, say, a full premium side? Can we say trading a Luke Stranadico, who probably isn't going to play again for West Coast unless they have a ruck crisis, which, given what's happened this year, isn't beyond them. And essentially just sitting there R3. Can you do that, or is it still too early, do you think?
It's too early in the other lines, but in the rocks, because you've got no downgrade options at the moment, I'm not sure about any that could be on the horizon in the mid-season draft. Something you can look at, but on the other lines, no, I'd be looking for playing players, because if you can get 22, 23 players in a bye week, that's going to get rid of those really poor scoring rookies who might score 30 off your total points for that week. So no, I'd still be looking for playing players, because some of these players will eventually either get injured or dropped, and you'll be able to loophole them anyway.
Yeah. Anyone else on your hit list?
No, I think that's about it. I think you can still jump on Butler from Hawthorn, Sam Butler. He's still pretty cheap and he's got the good buy. Looks to hold his spot. I might be bringing him in if no mid-season draft rookies pop up to play this week. But other than that, other than those rookies we've touched on, plus Butler and Tim English, I wouldn't really be looking to bring in too many other players.
Just one more guy just before we quickly wrap up. Can we still bring in Joel Jeffrey? He's 190k. He's got a break even of minus some ridiculous minus 77. He's going to go up another 50, 60k if he scores 51. He's playing North Melbourne. Can we jump on still, or is this just someone who we're going to have to just accept that we've probably lost out on?
Yeah, you're just going to have to accept it, because he's A, got the bad buy, B, got a pretty ordinary role. You're paying up for someone who could easily score 30 next week. So, I mean, I think the ship sailed on that pick.
Yeah, I think so as well. So just very quickly, obviously this is a quick fire one. So we have obviously the buys start this week. So for those of you guys who haven't played SuperCoach before, so there's only the top 18 scorers this week. So you only need to have 18 players to get maximum score. Obviously, if you have extras, say I think I've got 20 this week, then all that will happen is the bottom two scores will roll out, and it'll just take your highest 18 scores. So as Jonas touched on, if you've got 19 or 20 players, this week, you can potentially lose a couple of the dud scores that I have no doubt will come this week. And the other thing too as well, so obviously the next 3 weeks we're going to have 3 trades as a normal. And then obviously there's still the boost, so you could potentially use 12 trades over the next 3 weeks. I think you'd have to be going pretty gangbusters to use that, to be honest. But I think the aim coming out of the buys is I think you probably want a near complete, so you might maybe have 1 spot left. But I think now's the time, if you've been hanging on to, say, a Matt Rowell or Lockie Whitfield or, someone like that, I think you just got to keep them now to their buy and then get rid of them, which is what I plan on doing with Matt Rowell myself. But just before we quickly wrap up, have you got any ideas on some potential captain options this week, or vice captain options, given the fact that we can do any game this week, given the fact that the players on the bye won't lock out until the start of the final game, which is at 5:20 on Sunday for us over here on the east coast of Australia?
Yes. Just quickly, we forgot to touch on Heaney and Petrarca.
Oh, yes.
So with Heaney, I don't hate the idea of trading him because he's got Melbourne this week, and I assume he's got a pretty high break even, and then the bye. So if you want to trade him, that's not the worst idea in the world.
I'm not in a position to do that, given I just traded him in. His break even's 126.
Okay. Yeah, he's already cheap. But yeah, he's one where he just looks to have fizzled away a bit. And with Petrarca, I wouldn't be too concerned. I think he woke up feeling pretty fluey.
Yeah, he did play 6. They did announce that. So his break even's 167. So he's probably going to be around 500k when we grab him at this rate.
Yes, but I wouldn't be trading him out because he's got a good buy.
No.
He's close to top 8 mid, so.
Yeah, that was just a blip on the radar. Any captain options just real quick before we wrap up?
Yep. So I'm looking at vice captaining Tim English and captaining probably Sean Darcy. I don't mind Tuke Miller against Hawthorn, but his recent form hasn't been sensational, so I'm not too sure about backing him in. I don't hate Jordan Dawson against West Coast.
Yeah, he could.
I did captain him earlier this year. He scored over 100, so I guess it's not too bad.
There you go. But he could take another hanger on I don't know who they ruckman is, Jamison. He could take a hanger over Jamison and get a 150 and whatnot. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I don't actually mind the idea of putting on Rory Laird this week for the same reason. They're playing West Coast.
Yeah.
He's a great clearance play. I think he was back to 115 again on the weekend. I don't know. I think Adelaide have sort of fallen away a little bit as a team, but I think he's still going well. So I wouldn't mind chucking the VC on him and giving a go. Normally I go Tuke Miller without a doubt against North Melbourne. But yeah, I'm probably going to end up doing one of those two. And then if that doesn't work, I am undecided on where I'm going to go. I'm not sure about Lockie Neal this week. I feel like if he gets hot, I feel like James H, they might send him to Neal again like they did with Oliver. So I'm not really sure on what I'm going to do beyond those two. So, I mean, I might even end up doing a Friday night option. I think McRae's due for a big game. I think Dunkley's just about the best one of those Bulldogs midfielders at the minute. So I'll probably do something on the Friday night, I think, and go into Saturday with Laird or Tuke Miller. But anyway, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. Please keep your eye out on social media. We will hopefully be active on there throughout the week to answer your questions. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to get a Q&A podcast sometime later in the week. But we'll see how we go with university and whatnot. Otherwise, enjoy round 12, and we'll see you next time.